Welcome to Season 3 of DTBY's Community Podcast, hosted by the CYC.
We are a movement dedicated to inspiring, mentoring, and building the leadership qualities of tomorrow's leaders.
This season, we are connecting youth to professionals, mentors, and community leaders who possess specialized knowledge and experience in areas relevant to youth resilience and safety. By leveraging the expertise of these individuals, we hope to empower youth with information and insights that are vital for their well-being and security.
Before we introduce this episode's guest, we would first like to offer a land acknowledgement.
Although this gathering is virtual, we recognize that DTBY convenes on the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the traditional territory of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee and the Huron-Wendat peoples, also serving as home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples.
At the Dare to Be Youth Charity, we are proud to promote the spirit of helping, sharing, and caring for our neighbors without the expectation that has been exemplified by each of these nations as the first peoples of this land for thousands of years. And we wish to acknowledge our gratitude for the ongoing opportunity to live, work, and build community on this land.
It is our collective responsibility to care for each other, to care for these lands. And it is past time to turn reflection into action. We challenge ourselves and everyone here today to commit to one tangible next step to move this work forward.
Welcome back to DTBY's Community Podcast, and welcome to our new season. This is the first episode. My name is Cassia, and I will be the host for this episode alongside Sheridan. On behalf of DTBY and the rest of the CYC, it is our pleasure to welcome Jackie Boyle. Jackie is now competing for track cycling at the highest level internationally and is training in hopes to compete at the Paris Olympics next summer. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jackie.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We're glad to have you. So the first question I have for you is, if you stumble upon someone, let's say you're walking down the road and someone comes up to you and asks, "Who are you?" Out of nowhere, they know nothing about you. How would you go about explaining that?
Okay. Normally, if they stop me, they're like, "Oh my God, your legs are so big." I would say I would describe myself as a golden retriever dog. I'm very outgoing, very kind-hearted. I don't know if golden retrievers are very competitive, but I'm very, very competitive, and just very dedicated and loyal. I feel like that's the golden retriever side, and then I just add a little bit of competitive fire in me. So I'd say that.
That's an interesting way to describe yourself. I don't think I've ever heard that.
Gotta give an analogy. Well, I mean, I could say I'm a sister, I'm a daughter, I'm a teammate and stuff, but I feel like that puts it in I'm a competitive golden retriever. Yeah.
I like it.
I love that. I also have heard of like the black cat and the golden retriever like energy. So that's what I was comparing.
I've never heard of that. Okay.
Could you share a little bit about yourself and your journey to where you are today?
Okay. How far back do we start? So out of high school, I went to school in Toronto. I went to Queen's University in Kingston. Obviously I decided, but that was the choice that I made based on staying in Canada. And so I went to Queen's. I did 4 years there. I did my undergraduate degree in life sciences, and I played varsity volleyball, which was amazing. A lot of lost sleep doing both, but it was absolutely great. And then in my third year of university, the opportunity came to do RBC Training Ground, which at the time I didn't know anything about, and I'm assuming some youth still don't know anything about, but it's basically like a talent ID camp where they see your potential as an athlete, maybe in the sport that you're already in, or maybe in a different sport that you could compete at the national or maybe even Olympic level. And they transfer you over through this program, not only giving you funding, but like networking abilities. So in third year, I did this. I showed up to the testing grounds, and it was the age range is 14 to 25. So at the time I was 21, and everyone there was 14 years old, and I demolished them in every single competition, and they were there with your parents and stuff, and I had just shown up by myself. And so I had no clue what this whole ID camp was. Little did I know coming out of university that would put me on the pathway through track cycling. and then hopefully the Olympics. And I mean, my day-to-day job is training. So that little decision I made to do that ID camp basically kind of transformed the last 4 years of my life, and every little kid's dream of going to the Olympics. And so that's the journey I've been on. I did volleyball, did a bunch of sports throughout high school, competed at RBC training ground, and now I live and train and sleep and breathe track cycling.
Interesting. So here's a question for you. You mentioned you played varsity volleyball in university. Did you play, I guess, competitive volleyball in high school, or what sort of pushed you into volleyball?
I did. So throughout high school, I played a lot of sports. Did track and field, I did hockey, I did volleyball. I actually went to an all-girls high school, which I do not recommend to most. So their sports were very limited. I did play on my volleyball team at school. And then when I found that I loved the sport, I found an outside team that was a little bit more competitive. So I played in Toronto across, I guess it's called, I don't even know what it would be called, but against all the teams in Ontario. And then from there, I was recruited to university. And the same went for hockey, where I played at school, realized, hey, I really like this sport. Let's see if there's an outside league that I can play in. And I did the exact same thing for hockey up until grade 12 before university.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you shared a little bit about your background during Youth Inspire Community Day, but that additional portion I was just curious about. So I guess my follow-up question is, you did join us at Youth Inspire Community Day, which was hosted by the CYC and Dare to Be Youth. And how exactly did you, how did that connection work out? How did you get involved with Dare to Be Youth and sort of your journey to speaking at our event?
Mm-hmm. So as of this year, I'm an RBC Olympian. And so I found out through RBC about Dare to Be Youth and the Community Day. Although RBC is seen as like a very black and white financial institution, the amount of work that they do and like time and energy and resources into these youth initiatives, including RBC Training Ground and including Dare to Be Youth, supporting you guys, it blows my mind. So when I heard about this and heard about the opportunity, I was inspired by RBC, and I know RBC is supporting you guys. And if I can inspire any youth along their journey, it does not have to be in sport. That's the reason that I wanted to speak. Just trying to inspire people to find a path that they like. Yeah.
That's awesome. So post Youth Inspire Community Day, what would you say is your biggest takeaway? And maybe for those that didn't attend, what would you say was like the key takeaway or positive impact that you had?
That's a good question. I would say when I was there, every speaker honestly gave me goosebumps. I don't know if it's because I was coming off a competition, I was concussed, I was having all my feelings come to the surface, but every single speaker just gave me goosebumps in the sense that there was tidbits of information that each one said that I was like, oh, I can take that into my own life and into my own routine, my day-to-day routine. I think the thing that resonated me most is that most of them had tried everything and anything. There were speakers that were there for real estate, investors, obviously sports, and Olympians, Miranda and myself. And the information that they gave and just their life experiences, it inspired me. And I didn't think, I wasn't even there to be gaining information, I thought. And so I would say any youth that didn't attend the event should, because no matter if they don't have a relationship or a background, let's say in investing or real estate or sports, they will leave with inspiration from the experiences that these speakers have. And to say that I went in there as a speaker and left with inspirational information, I think as a youth, you don't have to be linked or think you have a correlation with one of us, but you will leave with something that you could take into your day-to-day in high school and hopefully beyond to university or college.
That's interesting that you took something away from it as well, because we sort of, I guess we consider the youth perspective a lot when we put time and effort into planning the events, and we want the youth to be inspired and motivated and find something, whether they can resonate with sports or real estate or environmental impact, any of that stuff, they can sort of take something with them. And there's something that interests them enough to listen to it and be able to take away something. But as a speaker, you know, I'm sure you sort of went into it like, oh, like I'm going to speak at this event and then I'm just going to spend the day here, whatever, like no big deal. But it's interesting to hear that you actually took something away from it as a speaker, and that was sort of why you were there per se, was to take something away. So that's interesting.
Even Miranda that was speaking there, basketball, 3-time Olympian, crazy resume, and she was going on about how she has failed so much in life and all of her experiences, and like even myself who's trying to get to the Olympics next year, hearing that was like, it was so refreshing, because I've been on this journey for 3 years of going around in circles on a track, failing quite often, and thinking about how people are judging me or seeing friends that maybe are in a different boat than I am, and I think I'm behind in something. Even in high school, I would do this where you compare yourself to friends and such. So hearing her speak, I didn't think I was going to gain as much from that, about not having people judge you, don't care about what people think. In that sense, obviously she's linking it to the highest level of being an Olympian, but I kind of distilled it back down to like high school sports all the way up until where I am now. I was always not afraid, but I was like, okay, what do my friends think about this? Like, I was always the very sporty gal, more tomboy like, and I think just seeing the youth and hearing the speakers talk to them, I hope they realize that you try everything, success or failure, you'll have experiences, you'll have memories that are in your bucket of life. And it shouldn't be what your friends are doing or the judgments that your friends have that dictates like what you want to try.
It's so true though. Even when I was in high school, you're always like trying to put almost one face forward when people look at you, because you don't want to be judged, or you're scared of being like, oh, like I'm not lesser than you, but in your head, that's sort of what you acquaint that with. But then I know coming to university was the biggest shock for me personally, because you went from being like not top notch, but you were so hard on yourself, and now you're being so hard on yourself during the transition, during when now, let's say like for sports, you're now playing at the highest level of sports in high school. Well, maybe that's not the highest level anymore when you go to university, right? So it's a very interesting, I guess, piece of information that a lot of youth resonate with. And I have people who still come to me who maybe are just entering university the first year, and they're like, I feel like I'm failing. But I can't tell my friends.
That was me first year.
Yeah.
No, I think people are very, very hard on themselves. And someone said this to me the other day and I never thought about it. It was like, if you, however past long ago, it could have been last year, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, saw where you are now, would they be like impressed? Would they be happy? Not even impressed, but like happy with where you are. And like someone had said this to me when I was in the middle of my concussion 2 weeks ago, and I had thought back in myself in university. If you had told me that I'd be on a National Olympic team training for the Olympics, I would have been like, there's no way. That girl, she'd be very, very happy. And then here I am sitting here stressed out about performing, about training, about what my teammates, what my coaches think of me, all that kind of stuff. And you kind of just have to distill it down to past you would be so happy that you achieved those things and that you tried it. Even if I, knock on wood, even if I do fail, just trying it. I think this is how I get workout through motivations, but you never regret a workout after you do it. And the same applies to like experiences. You'll never regret, at least myself, you never regret doing something. Even if you fail it, you can laugh about it later, but you'll regret if you don't. So people going from high school, even into grade 11 or grade 12, or they're making that massive leap to university, just try everything, not to the extent of burning yourself out, but just try everything and see what you like. And it's everyone fails, and you can laugh about it in 6 months or a year later.
I was in an interview process, and one of the questions was, if you found out you had 12 hours left to live, what would be your immediate first regret that came to your mind that you wish you didn't do, or that you wish something could have changed? And I was given the question, given 30 seconds to think of an answer, and given 2 minutes to have a response. And I was sitting there and I'm like, you know what? I don't really think I have any regrets. Like, obviously there's the one thing here or there, but overall, to me, everything I've done has pushed me and shaped me in one way or another. And yes, it might have failed and it might have not worked out exactly the way I thought it was, but there's something to take away from everything. So I'm just curious if either Sheridan or Jackie,
Good question.
anything, like if someone
I think Sheridan has to go first. Go
ahead. Honestly, yeah, I wouldn't say I have like any major regrets that have happened in my life so far, at least. But yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think everything that happens, whether it was a mistake or like a setback, there's a reason for it and you learn from it. I think that's the most important thing. So I don't think I'd change anything.
I like that. That's a good interview question.
That is a good
person. I would say, I do have one. I would say, because I've been on the national team since 2021, and we live out in Milton, middle of nowhere, cornfields, and a lot of any downtime we have is to recover for the training the next day. So I'd say my biggest regret is like after graduating university, I haven't stayed as close with friends or been able to see them, or if they're in Toronto for dinner or whatever it may be. I like how I said I was a golden retriever family dog at the beginning, but my like relationship with my friends from all over and maybe a little bit of my family has been deterred based on like the regime I have to do for cycling to get to the Olympics. So I'd say that's my biggest regret, but I can fix it after the Olympics.
Yeah. Okay. And that's something you can like learn from too. Like you'll eventually, you know, it's fine.
I think even after, like, if you think about after high school, how many friends you not lost, but lost touch with in high school to university, and then university into your mid-20s. I know not all friends will stay in contact forever. And that's also a huge aspect of growing up from grade 10, grade 11, all the way into your mid-20s.
It's true. That leads really nice into one of the questions I was going to ask you, but is there anything you wish you would have told yourself either a few months ago, a few years ago, when you were maybe little, that you've now learned and gained insight into that you think would be valuable to share with anyone who's listening to the podcast?
I think to my younger self, I would say, I think I already said it, but I would say try everything, whether it's a hobby. Obviously in my context it's sports, but everything that comes your way, try it. There is a time and a place to say no, and I am guilty of that, but like 8 out of 10 times say yes to trying stuff. It's how you find out what you enjoy, how you find purpose. It lets you network, find maybe what you don't enjoy. And you never know until you try it. Don't worry about failing. Don't worry about what people are thinking of you. If you don't look up to that person, then that opinion of them should not matter. And I think the analogy that I always use was in high school, I tried every single sport. I played every sport. And when I was getting into grade 11 and grade 12, and my coaches were telling me to pick a sport, because they had said to me, you can't be great at multiple sports at the same time. And did I listen to them? No. And I played them all the way up. It's a dot now that looking backwards, like when I attended RBC Training Ground, I don't think I would have made it possible through there if I hadn't played this multitude of sports when I was in high school. I wouldn't be the well-rounded athlete I am if I hadn't done that. And although at the time, many people were saying, no, you have to pick volleyball, you have to pick hockey. The fact that I played everything and said yes to everything in moderation, I think all youth should do. Again, not just in sport, but if there's hobbies that come your way, or your friends saying that they're doing something and you're like, no, that's not cool. I think just try it. It's an experience that you'll have, and you definitely will not regret it later on. And then there's one other thing that has nothing to do with this, but something that was recent that I wish someone had told me earlier. This was just in the last, again, few weeks. Is I forget what the quote is. It's you become the people you surround yourself with. And they had said basically the 5 closest people to you are a mirror image of what you are. So whether that be your parents, let's say I'm in high school, it's your parents, maybe your brother or sister, a couple of good friends of yours, the traits that they have and the attributes that they have will mirror exactly what you're doing, and you'll basically become a version of all 5 of those together. And I think that's something that stuck with me. In my sense, it's in terms of training, in the environment that I'm in. I want to surround myself with people that want to be better every day. But if I were in high school, it'd be the sense, if I'm in a friend group that is not the kind of person I want to be, I think don't eliminate yourself from it, but try to find people that you look up to, that you want to be, that you want to learn from, that you want to surround yourself with, because more times than not, their personality and their actions will mirror exactly what you're doing.
I think that's really important. See, I was very lucky. I've been with my same closest 3 friends since grade 6. So we've
Oh my
grown up
goodness.
together, but that's like super rare. And obviously along the way, we've like allowed new people into our friend group, sort of kicked them out,
Allowed
and
to come in.
like went and like experimented with different people. But at the end of the day, we've all come back together. And even the transition from sitting together every single day at lunch in high school to now texting once a month, we're still the closest people ever. But if during, like, there were times during our high school years more so that we would go off with different friends or experiment with different friend groups, but then you learn, like, sort of what you said, that's not who I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true. The people you surround yourself
Mm-hmm.
is who you become.
100%. I didn't learn that until last year, so that's really good that you you picked up on that.
You know what? It's because I'm in science. So I know you did life science, and I am majoring in genetics. So we talk a lot about different genetics, and I think it was either my first year or last year, I can't really remember, but we learned about how can identical twins who are made of the exact same, like, composition pretty much, how do they become so different? Like, and it's all about who they actually surround themselves is what actually changes them from there. So I really like that insight you provided.
Yeah, no, I really like that. It's a good point. And I always wonder if I was friends with, because I was friends with life sciences people, and they're all super hardworking at university, and I was probably the one that was most astray in terms of going out and stuff. And I always wonder if I'd be very different in terms of my discipline now, and like they inspire me. Most of them are doing crazy things, and I always wonder how I would be different if I was hanging out with maybe the people I went to high school with that are now at the same university as me. So can't take the other path, but I'm just curious what the other path looks like.
I think we all are.
Yeah, I feel like for me, I kind of agree. Like when I was in high school, like I'm still friends with some people I went to high school with, but we each had like different interests. So like when I went into university, I found it was a lot easier to be inspired by people that have the same interests and motivations that you do. So that's interesting. But yes, I have one more question for you. What is next for you, and how do you plan on getting there?
Next in life.
Yes. Next in life. Next for you. Okay. What's coming up?
Okay, what's next? Okay, so the Olympics are in 8 months. My heart rate is elevating just thinking about that. So the next thing for me, I'm currently in sprint track cycling, which is very short distances, very short time, all out. And I'm transferring to endurance track cycling. it's my best chance of going to the Olympics and hopefully medaling at the Olympics by doing this, by being a starter for them. So right now I'm transitioning my training to do that until January. And then in January, our World Cup season and Olympic season begins. So I have about a month and a bit of training before all the stress of all the competitions and Olympic points starts adding up. And with that, I actually just applied to medical school. So I hopefully in January we'll find out about medical school interviews and such. So right now I'm just training, just routine, and then next year, January, the World Cups begin.
Wow, that's so exciting. Medical school too.
We'll see.
Cross your fingers for you.
But that's the thing is my 5 closest friends are so organized and so like, what can I do more? And so when I talk to them, as soon as I hang up the phone, this is one of them. I was talking to my friend from university. As soon as I hung up the phone with her, I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply to medical school. Like she just, I don't know what it is that I talk to her about, and it just inspires me. I'm like, I'm going to do this. So that's, it alludes to the point that the people you surround yourself with will inspire you. So choose them wisely.
It's true. It's a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, Jackie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming you applied for a 2024 start in med school.
Mm-hmm.
So I've also been looking into like, I'm not applying this year, but hopefully next year. Some of my friends have applied. And I'm curious as to if you get an interview,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to be during peak like season for you.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to like manage that, I guess?
So I found out, I mean, I don't know if I'll get an interview, knock on wood, but I'll be in Australia when the interview process happens, because they've already let us know the like block of time that if you do have one, this is when it'll be. So I will already have to, it's a 13-hour difference. I'll already have to just wake up and do the opposite, which is fine. But they've made them all virtual, all the interviews, I think, since COVID.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good then.
I would fly back for it though, 100%.
Fair enough. That's very valid.
Have you been to Australia before?
I have never been. We go end of January, I think, for 3 weeks to acclimatize and get used to the time change. But I am so excited.
Where are you going?
We're going to Adelaide. That's where the competition takes place.
Do you have any more questions, Cassia?
No, I think we're all good.
Awesome. Well, that concludes this episode of DTBY's Community Podcast. On behalf of the rest of the CYC and DTBY, I would like to thank you for supporting youth and creating impact in our community. It takes a village to support and empower the leaders of tomorrow, and we can't make an impact alone. So we appreciate everyone in the community who steps up to support us. So thank you, Jackie.
Thank you very, very much for having me. And I hope to see everyone else out at the event next year.
Yes, of course.